three speeches there. There was a speech that was, I'm going to blame Congress if things fail. There was a speech that was basically a long litany of false choices, arguing that Republicans only really want to get rid of all regulation, all government spending, sort of the overstatement approach. And then there were the proposals themselves. And I want to talk a little bit about those because there are some things there that make some sense, but I think this is the right place to invoke a new rule. About 30 years ago, probably in this room, was this room here 30 years ago? 30 years ago, Charles Schultz said there's nothing wrong with supply-side economics that can't be solved with division by 10. There's nothing wrong with the president's proposals that cannot be solved with equal division. They're just simply not going to do that much. If you look collectively at what Mark Zandi or macroeconomic advisors put out, they said, okay, we spend $450 billion, and we're going to get 1.9 at the upper end, or 1.2 million jobs. So at $250,000 to $350,000 a job, this is what we're going to get for these efforts. Those are models that are beneficial to the president's policies. That's the upper bound. So let's divide by appropriate numbers and realize that this is not a solution. This is a Band-Aid. And it was a Band-Aid that I found, in the end, just underwhelming. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the payroll tax cuts. There's nothing right about them either. They're probably the place where they can get some bipartisan agreement. I have some issues with how the new hire tax break is structured. We've always wondered whether it could really successfully implement and administer a new hire tax credit. This is a close cousin. I think we're going to have to stare at it carefully, see if we can actually make it work. The employee side cut, we've seen already the modest expansion of that, so it's not going to have a big impact. The infrastructure proposals, I'm quite skeptical of. There's nothing that's wrong with good infrastructure. We know that a core function of government is to provide key infrastructure, basic research, national defense. These are the economic functions of government. We know equally well that there is nothing with a worse track record of being implemented in an efficient and timely fashion than capital expenditures. Ronald Reagan failed with his public works program, and it's happened all the way through the Recovery Act. And here we are again with the promises that, honest, this is different. It'll get out quickly. We'll time it correctly to avoid a double dip, and we won't waste the money. And I remain skeptical. That is not the track record. What we need instead is to have Congress do its job every year, fund basic infrastructure in an efficient fashion, get rid of 100 programs in the Department of Transportation, identify a federal role, fund it, and get what we need so that we can compete internationally. That won't come out of this speech last night or the legislation. That's a different agenda. It's one that really does focus on the long run. And I think that, in the end, has to be the change that we see.